Well, hello and welcome to this presentation with Dr. Well, I call her Lesliebeth Wish, but we call her LB, and she'll tell you that is the initials of Ladybug, so you'll always remember who LB is. But I want to congratulate you for being here, because just the fact that you're here tells us that you're open to learning, growing, and advancing in your life, and you're looking for more intuition so that you'll never be kind of walked on, used, or hurt ever again, because your intuition will always know the truth. And we're here to let LB share all about who she is, why she joined the Academy, why she does what she does for decades now, helping women become more empowered. And I just want to say good morning, LB.
Good morning, and good morning to all of our viewers. Thank you so much. I think your viewers will learn so much about their lives and how to make better decisions.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're your viewers. These are your members, people that are wondering, what does this lady know and how is she going to help me be more intuitive? And we're going to give you all of those answers throughout this presentation. But first we want to get to know who LB is so you can know who you're working with as you join her on her monthly content here at the Academy. First of all, LB, what was it about the Academy that intrigued your heart so that you actually saw the vision and joined the team to help families become more empowered, healed, and united?
Well, that's so important that there's an academy. Think about what you feel like when you are not feeling well physically and you go to your doctor and he or she gives you some pills or whatever, some kind of prescription, and you go home and it doesn't work. And then you go back and then it doesn't work again. And then you ask your friends, I saw, Dr. X and I didn't get any results. Well, who else do you recommend? And your friend tells you somebody else, and you go to that person. And sometimes you can go to several people before you get some kind of solution and understanding and the right medication regime. And the reason that happens so often is that so many physicians are solo practitioners, work with just a small group. And they don't have the benefit of all the advice and all the input of lots of colleagues. And I didn't want to feel like a solo practitioner where I was the only person in the world who could help someone. That sounds ridiculous. No one has all the answers to anything. So I found this academy. I met both of you and was so impressed and inspired. And I feel very lucky to be chosen to be part of this academy. So not only can I help you and all the other people who might be tuning into the rest of the videos, but that you have the benefit of knowing that members of this academy communicate and consult with each other. So you're getting tremendous richness, not only for you personally, but your sense of trust and believing in the Academy. So I am grateful that I belong to this Academy because I know that I can offer even better help to people than I have in the past.
Yeah, I love that. And that's it's kind of like we're creating let's say it takes a village to raise the next generation. Well, we're creating a global village, and that's what's really awesome. So just take a few minutes here, and let's talk a little bit more about what you do and what is your expertise here in the Academy.
Yes, I joined the Academy as expert in intuition. I like to help you empower your intuition and become emotionally brave, so that not only can you recognize your intuitive signs, but you have the emotional bravery to use them. Because it's not enough to get input like when you hear a sound or a voice saying, don't do that, or this is a good person to go out with, or don't take that job, this is going to be a really bad decision, you didn't like who interviewed you. We get messages weekly at least, and often daily, about decisions about love, life, happiness, success, who we should date, who we should have sex with, who we should consider as a possible potential partner. I mean, every day there are decisions, even down to what do I eat for breakfast and should I eat breakfast. But it isn't enough to get to the bridge of hearing or receiving those signals. It's whether you are able to be emotionally brave to use them. I remember a client who came to me and said that she had a date that night with a really big, player in town, and she felt like she was just blessed. She won the gold star for getting a date with this guy. And she kept saying to me, I'm not going to go to bed with them. I'm not going to go to bed with them. I'm not going back to his house. I don't want to be one of those girls. I'm not. And, well, you know how that story ended. And the next day she called me and said, I didn't listen to those messages that said he was not interested in me. I was just another conquest. She heard those messages. She felt them. She sensed them. But she didn't have the emotional bravery to listen to them and follow through. So you need to have both. So that's what I'm here to be, is your intuitive guide. I call it being your intuitive angel. I want everyone to have an angel on their shoulder whom they can trust, who they believe when they get their signals, whether it comes through your tummy flip-flopping or that thump on your chest, or whether it comes from something that you just, that instant sense of this guy's no good or this is not the right place for me to be, that you can receive those signals and you can follow through on them. So I'm a big fan of activating your intuitive angel, your intuitive guide, so you can do the number one thing that women need to do. This came out of my research for my book about how they can trust their own judgment. So if you continue with me and watch 12 months of tips, plus a weekly call-in where you can ask Dr. Lesliebeth Wish, a question about your dating life, your love life, your current relationships, your work decisions, your career decisions, and just what will make you happy and successful, and unhook the things that make you not get emotionally brave to follow through on those intuitive messages that you get. And that's how I want to help everyone.
Wow. Where were you 20 years ago, Dr. LB? Seriously, I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember being in relationships myself, and something inside me gave me it was like either a visual picture in my mind, or it was something, and it would say player, he's playing you. And then you would voice it like, I think you're playing me. And then they would be such great actors, and they would say anything at all to get you to the next level, or sex, or whatever, like you were just saying. And I just wish that I had the intuitive guide 20 years ago. Thankfully, I found a little intuition. I found my perfect soulmate right here now. But man, this would have been great to have in my past, and still great to have for some things that I will experience for my future. I think it's wonderful.
I'm so glad that you and I are not alone, and the rest of the universe of women in love are not alone, because what you're talking about is your heart pounding, right? Getting it going. Ooh, 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 ooh. When that heartbeat goes up, you're with the guy and your heart's racing like that, more often than not, it's a sign that you're investing too much emotionally into the situation, into this relationship. So that would be one of your tells. So I want to teach all of my viewers how to recognize these tells, and more importantly, how to get emotionally brave to follow through on them. Yep. Because that's so important. You can get those signals, but you can do one of these. Hang on, I've got another great prop. You can do one of these, be blind to them, yes, right? And not want to see them. Oh, yep. And that you really have to hook what is making you put that blinder on.
That's really interesting. That's the old saying, love is blind, right there. You just nailed it right on the head. So let's get to know who Dr. LB Wish is a little bit more. Did you always have intuitive factor, LB? Can you tell us about your childhood and some things that you experienced in your daily life growing up?
Yes, I want to talk about the 4 major things in my life that have made a difference, because they honestly, truly, and deeply changed my life. But before I do that, I want to say something. No matter how smart and intuitive you are, you're going to go down wrong roads, because you can be right 100% of the time. And I like to call it trial and learn instead of trial and error, because one of the ways that most of us learn, and it's one of the top ways we learn, is by going down many tributaries and little waterways and roads and paths that we go, oops, this was a wrong one for me. So I want to give you the impression, and my listeners and viewers or anyone else, that every decision I've made has been the best one right off the bat. The goal is, once again, getting emotionally brave enough to recognize your mistakes and do something about it. So let me go back now to my childhood and why I find these 4 things so important. The first thing that happened in my life that gave me tremendous luck, and I really mean luck with just a capital L, was that I was just born with some great genetics. Now, there are some genetics I got that I don't like. I don't like all my horrendous long list of food allergies, and those are really serious. And I don't like that I have some learning disabilities. And I am very happy to share those, because you don't know what's wrong with people, what's behind the facade they put up. And I want you to know that, and Bonnie and Tom can vouch for this, I'm like at the back of the class, way at the end of the line back there, on following through on learning how to do all this technical stuff, because when I read instructions, the first line bounces into the second line, and I miss the second step, and I move to the third step. I have to take baby steps. And everybody says to you, those of you who have learning disabilities, well, just try harder. Well, what if all the tools in your toolbox were broken? So every time you go into your toolbox and you go slowly and take your time, you still bring a broken tool. So it's not so easy, right? Because that's what's in your toolbox. You go, oh, I'm going to do it. So that wasn't a good genetic thing I got, but you know what? It made me very resourceful. So I got some very good genes of being very intelligent, very capable, very self-trusting, very independent, very calm on the inside, long-term patience. I can work at something for a long time. I don't need closure. I'm very good at reading people. I've been intuitive, and I knew that I was intuitive from about the age of 5. But that is just luck, right?
Maybe. I'm not sure. It's like everybody has that intuition. We're all taught about the sixth sense and whatnot, and I believe that we're born with it, and I think that we probably have 20 senses that we're born with, but we're only taught about like 5. And so you were intuitive at the age of 5, you just said, but did you know it?
Yes, I did.
Conscious of it?
Very conscious of it. It came to me in kindergarten, and it came to me as a strong thought, sort of like the ticker tape in Times Square, where they have all the headlines and everything. It came right across my forehead. I could feel it and see it, and I could hear the thoughts because I couldn't read it, so it was more like thoughts. But I received the thought that my teacher and my parents were jerks, and I didn't need to listen to them. Truthful, honest, that I didn't have to listen to them, that they were not good parents, and that my teacher wasn't very good. And what prompted that was we had one of those boring, stupid coloring exercises in kindergarten. And she went around the room and gave us a bunch of crayons and said, I want you to color the ducks and try to stay in the lines. God forbid you should be out of those lines, right? She didn't know how famous Jackson Pollock and Picasso were, right, who didn't care about lines. But I colored my little ducks blue. And she came over to my desk and she said to me, ducks are not blue. And I looked up at her, getting that little message. It's simple. My brain, very good read, but I didn't.
Well, you blanked out just for a second, LB, when you went to do your ticker. When you went to do this, you blanked out just for a minute.
Okay. Oh, you want me to say it again?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure where I lost you, but that little ticker tape went across my head. It doesn't have words because I couldn't read yet, but it had little symbols and feelings that my teacher was wrong in telling me that ducks couldn't be blue. And from that point on, that tripped off my instant knowledge that my parents were really ineffective parents. Of course, I didn't know that. I knew that I would have to abide by them. I could act like I was abiding, but they weren't going to get into me. They weren't going to harbor inside of here. They were very immature. They got married too young, and I just sensed it. And from that point on, I've been a quick read about people. Not everyone. I don't want anyone to think that I am free of making missteps. No one is. And anyone who says, oh, I've never been wrong in love or what job to take, then don't trust them, because they're not telling you the truth, all right? They're putting up a facade, right? So don't listen. I've made plenty of mistakes. Boy, I'm glad I had enough kisses left sometimes for the right one to come along, so you've got to think about this. But the reason I mention luck is that is one of the motivators as to why I do the kind of work I do, because so many people aren't as lucky as I am. I don't get anxious easily. I don't get stressed out easily in spite of my learning disability. I know how to take my time. I make pretty good decisions in life. I've really made wonderful ones. Some ones that I wish I could just take an eraser and kind of go like that. But overall, really, really wise decisions. And I know how to trust my instincts. And those are things that I can teach you how to do, even if you haven't had great access to them. So I wanted to pass on my luck to other people, because that's just God-given. So the second thing.
Oh, I'll let you do your second. Hang on to that thought just for a second, because I want to comment on that, because I was a child who I feel like recognized that intuition at around the same age. However, I allowed society and the teachers and my parents to get in there, and so by the time I was 12 years old, every special thought that I had about myself was gone. I knew that my life was never going to lead to anywhere. Look how things change. Thank goodness for knowledge and education. But I know that a lot of people out there can relate to what I'm talking about, because I've worked with literally tens of thousands of people, and most of them, LB, don't have that luck where they were able to get all of their greatness literally, whatever, beat out of them, or whatever you want to call it. Their spirits have been broken, and now we need to retrain them on how to actually, like you said, develop that guide and actually learn to trust in yourself. It's very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing.
And that's why empowering your intuition is so important, because it will help you avoid the #1 mistake that women make when it comes to love. They break up with the guy, they get hurt, and what do? They swear off men. They close down their heart. And what that does is it takes you out of trusting yourself. And it doesn't give you a chance to get practice in trusting yourself. So it's so important for me to help women, and of course men too, learn how to rebound and to trust that if you do get hurt again, you can rebound safely and pretty quickly. So I really wanted to pass that luck on to people. So that was the first reason, the first major wonderful turning point in my life, when I realized that I had some God-given personality characteristics that allowed me to do things like be my own counsel, and most importantly, to be empathic, kind, and forgiving. I give people what I call the baseball theory of life. Unless you really are super nasty and clobbering to me, I will give you 2 more chances up at bat. Because we all make mistakes, yes. So the second thing I got that was a gift to me, again, part of my luck, was that my mother was fortunate enough to realize that she really didn't want to be so much involved with mothering. And so coming from the South, one of the sayings in the South, no idea if it's true, but it's one of those little sayings that gets into the culture. You don't know if you're poor until you find out that you can't afford to hire help, like in the movie The Help. People didn't have names. They were known as the girl or the help. Well, my mother hired Daisy, and that's why the only flower I like are daisies, to come live in the house with us. She lied about her age. She said she was 21, but she was only 19, and she wanted to escape her family background. And she lived in the house with us and raised me. And I can never talk about her without getting tearful, because she saved my life many a time, and she was the voice of love and wisdom, just there for me all the time. And one of the things I learned in the research for my book, which I'll get to later, was that if you have a mentor in your life, could be a teacher, a scout, a neighbor, anybody, just someone who mentored you and made you feel loved, then you are light years ahead progress to being happy and successful. And that's what Daisy was to me. She taught me things such as act with beauty. Very important. Offer kindness. You lead with kindness. She also taught me, which I put into slightly different words, is that your past will never leave you, but you don't have to let it lead you. And so that's the other thing I like to give to my viewers, is that I can teach you, once again, how to unhook those past messages that work against your spirit, against your happiness and your own empowerment, how to unlock that and find out on a deeper level how to do that and what that lock is all about. I am all for affirmations such as this is the first day of your life, or as I just said one, act with beauty. And those are very powerful, but they're not potent enough. They will not help you get emotionally brave enough to make the changes that you need to in your life. So that's the second thing that made me feel very, very lucky and made me very motivated to pass on the tips of how you can get lucky too. And that put me in this profession. It was just a main motivator. The other two things are my advanced postgraduate training, 3 years with a major international leader in the field of family, marriage, and love, and 3 years of learning not only about myself, but how to be a better inspirer and how to be a better therapist and writer. And the last thing, so important to me, and I hope all of you get this kind of good luck and good intuition combination, is that my husband, who I've known for 33 years now, and I'm just so glad we found each other and continue to make ourselves very rich in our lives emotionally and in so many ways, so that I not only talk the talk, I walk the walk.
Well, that's beautiful, and I'm going to be, as soon as we're done our presentation today, we're going to go look for Daisy, or a Daisy, or something to do with Daisy, because as you were talking about her, I was like, oh, we all want a Daisy. She sounds so lovely, and I'm very happy that you were able to experience that in your life, LB. Thank you so much for sharing your past. Sometimes it's not easy to do, but we really want to get to know who you are and who we're going to be learning with here at the Academy. Can you talk about, I don't know how many major areas that you have that you're going to be teaching throughout your 1 hour of content. Do you have it broken down, or can you just share some points of what would I learn should I come to your 1 hour of content throughout the next several months or a year?
Yes, absolutely. Can I just back for a second, because I do want to tell a story about Daisy?
Oh, sure.
Because it's an important part of my life, and I think it will empower a lot of the people who come to the Academy for help who are thinking of being a parent or taking on a blended family. I learned early in my life when I was, I don't know, somewhere in my late teens, early 20s, that I could not have children, that it was not going to happen. I don't have somebody make you have children, so I don't have them, and I can't get them, at least not in the 21st century. So I knew that that was not going to be part of my life, and that made me very sad. And I didn't know what I was going to do about it. Well, one of the things that happened to me in my childhood was that there was a man who came to our house who was a carpenter to paint the walls and build some cabinets. And I was allowed to me sexually. And I escaped it. And that night I told my parents about it, and they didn't believe me. So I told Daisy about it, and she said, I believe you, because he was making those kinds of, she called it, nasty moves towards me too. She protected me the whole summer that the carpenter was in the house. And she was the one who absolutely made sure that the carpenter couldn't get near me, couldn't see me, and it was such a gift. And later, when I was a teenager, Daisy wanted to move out of the house into her own home and have a life of her own. I mean, she was living in a horrendous basement with darkness. It was terrible. And she said to me that she did not move out because she didn't want me to be alone. And she was waiting for me to go off to college. and then she would be willing to leave and have a life of her own. She just wanted to continue to help raise me. And so now we fast forward my wonderful husband, who has a daughter from his first marriage. And when we met, she was barely out of kindergarten. And I got married, and I raised her. And not too long after we were married, she began talking about wanting to live only with us. And just not too long after that, when she felt a little bit more sure about her feelings, because she was just like 7 years old, she came to live with us full time. And I feel that I had the wonderful gift of passing on Daisy's gift of giving to another child who I didn't bear. And so those of you who are thinking of adopting or getting married to someone who already has children, you have enough love in your heart to offer love to those children too.
Wow. Well, you got me all teary-eyed, and gosh, if you kept talking there, I think I might full-fledged out cry. That's such a beautiful story, and how lucky. So your intuitive guide, or your intuitive angel, attracted to you exactly what you needed in your childhood. Another angel, I guess, that came into your life to literally protect you and to deliver just this amazing character to the world that would spend her whole life empowering other people, women mostly, but men too. I know that you work with men also. Yes. I think that's a beautiful thing. Thank you again for sharing.
So now we can fast forward to what will you get if you watch my monthly videos, and we've been talking about offering a weekly Ask Dr. LB Wish, and it could be about anything. So here is what I offer. I'm going to empower intuition. I'm going to make you emotionally brave in all the main aspects of your life, whether it be take this job, what should I major in college, should I go back to graduate school, how do I deal with this impossible boss, or how do I find success, how do I feel I deserve success, what steps do I need to take, can I really be the only successful person in my family, for example, and sort of like have that what I call surpasser's guilt and leave them and their rules and how they lived? Can I really find happiness in love? Can I find happiness in my job? All the major decisions that you need to make in your life, where you need to connect your intuition, your heart, those signals, and that permission slip, that big check mark that says you can do it, you're allowed to do it. And that's what I want to help people with. So the segment monthly cues is the first step. And then finding out, for example, what are your blocks? What makes you do one of these? What makes you not see things, hear things, feel things? What makes you do that? What makes you act in spite of the intuition that you get? What makes you go against that? And what we're going to do, hang on, I've got another prop for you. This is one of my favorite props. This is an artichoke heart. I can't believe I found this somewhere. I don't remember where I found it. Oh, I know. It was in a display case for foods, and I asked the guy if I could buy it. And he said, yeah, you can have it. So I think that's where it came from. Anyway, the point is, I want to show you this artichoke. You see all these layers? Those wonderful horoscopes and affirmations, yes, they do help, but they're only going to get you like maybe that deep. You know, it's not going to get to that core, and that's where I'm going to take you. But don't worry, I'm not going to take you there right away. We're going to do it in steps. We're going to learn about you, you're going to learn about you, you're going to learn to do some exercises, some tips. So that's the goal, to free you from you. Again, remember what I said. Your past will never leave you, but it doesn't have to lead you. You can form a whole new center, a whole new identity, a whole new sense of yourself about all those important decisions. That's very important to me to give it to you. So once again, I'll bring my other angel out here. You can be your own intuitive angel and always have that angel guidance on your shoulder and inside you. I want you to be able to trust your instincts, notice them, recognize them, and of course use them. So that's just for starters. I also want you to know that you don't have to be an ugly duckling. You can turn out to be a swan. We all have a swan in us, and I don't mean just inside yourself, but accepting what you look like, how you carry yourself, how you're good to yourself. Everybody has a swan in them. And those are the kinds of feelings and true beliefs I want to give you. So let me see who else is here to visit for props. Okay, let's talk about finding love. Okay? This is the rose. You know, will you accept the rose of you? I want you to accept a rose for yourself and about yourself. Because so many times, especially women are guilty of this, they give this rose and their heart to their partners and forget about giving the heart to themselves and the rose to themselves. You have to be very careful about that. I'm also going to help you recognize when it's a good time to get out of a relationship, when it's a good time to break up, when it's a good time to start dating again, all those little tiny decisions that you make along the way to your successes. So how does that sound so far?
Wow, I think you're going to keep us busy for the next several years, and I'm looking forward to joining your live content. You said a couple things during the last couple minutes that made me, I never even thought about it that way, because obviously, I already shared that, by the time I was 12, I knew that I was no good to the world, and that was no fault of anybody. It was just my parents wanted good for me, and nothing I ever did was kind of good enough, and so I beat myself up. And then when I got into my adulthood and I started creating some great success for my life, I had certain people in my life that could not understand my family, and they couldn't understand why I would want to spend so much time with my family, because there's a lot of negativity in there. That's the past. And you were talking about, do you have a right to break free from that, even from your family, to go ahead and create something new? And that just touched my heart personally, and so I'm excited. Okay, that's awesome. So let's talk about, I don't know how much time we have left, maybe 15 minutes or so. So let's talk about your book and all of the research that you did, because it's my understanding that, yes, you have your doctorate, and yes, you have your PhD, and yes, you're very educated, but there was something else that really attracted us to you for the Academy, and it was your personal research that you do, LB. It's the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or thousands of women that you've actually interviewed, and men, to write your books. Can you share a little bit about your work?
Yes, I am honored to, and I'm really glad you raised that, because I might have forgotten, because I love my props. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. Yes, let me tell you a little bit about my education, so you know why it's so important to me to let you know that you're speaking to a person of value and who can offer you a bigger picture. I was so lucky, back to that luck again, I have lots of different areas of talent. I can dance well. I considered a professional dancing career. Can't sing worth a note, but dancing's good. And Daisy taught me how to dance too. She called it finger popping. So I can finger pop. I also am very good at drawing. I might not look like it or come across it, but I have the soul of a scientific nerd. I can study things for a long time. I get engrossed in history, American history, European history, English and American lit. And so can you imagine when I went to college, I didn't know what to do, what to major in. And my mother gave me a world-class film education. She would wake me up at 11 o'clock at night and say, get ready, you're going to come downstairs and we're going to watch The Late Show, because this is the only movie that you're going to see where Joan Crawford got her Academy Award. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, be Betty Davis's Academy Award. And at 3 o'clock in the morning would be John Garfield's Academy Award. So I'd say to my mom, I've got to go to school. I've got to get sleep. Well, my father was a physician. She would go take his physician pad, write on it that I, couldn't go to school in the morning because I was sick. So that's how I went to school. And when I got to college and took film classes and realized, oh my God, I've already had this education. So I ended up double majoring in English literature and history, and they were about the smartest things I could major in instead of just being psychology all the way through my life. It made my world richer, bigger. I got to develop other analytical skills for other domains like, English literature, American film, all those kinds of things. And then later, my graduate training was in one of my masters is in English Lit, and my other master and my doctorate are in psychology. So I'm offering this not as a brag. Only in this context, I would never walk up to someone on the street and say, "Hi, I've got these degrees." But I want to give it to your listeners to know that you're not just getting a narrow road of advice. I really have a big picture, and I don't know whether you can see my globe sticking out behind there. There's my globe. I always have a globe in my office. I like to keep track of where countries change borders, and I've changed that globe 4 times already to make sure it's up to date. I love history. It teaches me so much about human behavior. So all of that came together to write my book, and it's called Smart Relationships: How Successful Women Can Find True Love. So why did I do this? Well, that goes back to my luck, that I've had very good luck. Again, not free of making stupid mistakes like everybody else, but luck to rebound with greater intelligence and courage and self-confidence. And I wanted to know, so many of today's professional or educated or trained women are smart about work but not love. And I did not want to rely on just what I've learned from my clients over the years, because believe it or not that many people seek out therapy than it is portrayed on television. So I wanted to get information from all over the world. So I went and put on my website a survey. I did workshops. I did study groups. I made sure I contacted people from all over the world. I found out, where the websites were where women went for those places. People from Australia, India, South Africa, Pakistan, just all over the world. And one of the things that really, really infused my understanding of other cultures was the final thing that really changed my life, and that was having lived in the Soviet Union when it was communist for a year. Boy, that rocked my world. So I brought a lot of largeness to my work, and I wanted to use that large view of the world to get lots of people in my study. So in the core study in this book are 1,200 women, but there were thousands more who I didn't put in the core because they were a lot younger or a lot older, or they asked not to be included because they were afraid they would be identified, even though I changed identifying information. But I also in my life have seen 10,000 people who I have counseled. So it's a big picture, not just the study. And so this is what I wanted to teach women about their love life, how to be successful. And I'll leave you with just 2 tips that came from that book. I already mentioned one of them, which was women do not trust their own judgment when it comes to love. And so they make the big mistake of swearing off men. And that is not a very wise thing to do. You cheat yourself out of growth, for starters. You cheat yourself out of having experiences and practice in reading men. The second biggest mistake they make is they flip back and forth. They go out with a guy who they like because he's so sweet and kind, and they can tell them anything, and they love how understanding he is. He's the teddy bear of their life, and they feel so warm. But then, oops, they found out that what this man does is when the going gets tough, they disappear. If you get sick, if you lose your job, if you're having trouble with your children or your parents, they're clueless, just clueless. And all of a sudden you realize that you feel warm with this guy, but you don't feel safe. You don't feel that this guy is your wingman, okay? Your wingman who you can look to either way and say, will you take over the controls for a while? And that's what women found out when they were just warm and cuddly. So what did they do? They reversed things, and they went for the guy who was the leader of the pack. And there is nothing wrong with guys who are leaders of the pack. The movers and shakers. My husband's a leader kind of guy. But the difference is my husband's a leader guy, and there are tons of leader guys out there who also make you feel warm. And these women overcorrected. They said, no more teddy bears for me. I'm going with the lions. And I wish I had my lion and teddy bear stuffed animal to show you, but you can imagine that in your mind, what a lion and a teddy bear looks like. And they went with the lion, and they found out that, yep, that man was their wingman. They could look on either side and you want to take over the controls. But guess what these men wanted to do? They wanted all the controls. You gave up too much. So those are the kinds of patterns that I recognize, and I can get you out of them. And if women were making that mistake with men, oops, men are on the other side of that equation. They were making those mistakes. Their two most common mistakes they made was choosing a woman who was a mover and shaker, over worshiping them, over idolizing them, and then discovering that these women ran too much of their lives too. And they wanted to bolt so that they had a speaking part. On the other hand, the other thing that men often do is they love basket cases. They love to rescue. They love to take care of women. Nothing wrong with being, the Red Cross for a while, but that was the only job they had, and that left women forever needing the Red Cross, never being able to stand on their own. So those are some of the patterns that I discovered, and those are some of the issues and patterns that we'll be looking at in the workshops and talks that I give.
Wow. Wow. I'm excited. I could listen to you and watch your little props all day long, Dr. LB. I think this is wonderful, and I think that the content that you're going to bring to the Academy is just second to none. People, especially, I'm thinking especially women, but I'm not a guy, so I don't know how they think really. But I know especially for women, I'm looking forward to partaking in your live content, and I'm sure everybody else is as well. Before we wrap up the end of the interview, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Some closing thoughts or statements or something you can think of that you didn't get to say?
Yes. For starters, please go to my website, lovevictory.com, and you can learn more about me and read my blogs. And secondly, I am sending out a heartfelt invitation for you to send me your story, because I would love to hear your story about your using your intuition, your listening to that thump on the chest, that flip-flop in the stomach, that message in your head, that chills down your body, all your intuitive reactions that told you to do or not do something. Or on the other hand, to them, I am telling your story. Your story will be an inspiration to all the readers, and all of your stories can go in my book that I'm doing with a colleague, and the name of the book is Becoming Your Own Intuitive Angel: How to Know What You Already Know about love, work, anything. Right now, I'm really trying to collect stories about dating, love, when you chose the right person, when you realized it wasn't the best person for you. So please go to my website, lovevictory.com, on the upper right, and you will see a drop-down bar. You'll see a place to put your name. Just write the word angel in the message, and I'll be happy to give you the steps to send me a really great story. Please consider doing that. Remember, your lessons that you learned in life will help so many other people.
Beautiful. Any thoughts?
No, I'm ready to go. Is it next month yet?
Yeah, thank you.
I do want to say too that after trusting my own intuition, it took me close to 8 years. I think I'm going to write you a story because this is a pretty good one, of knowing what was going on, but putting my blinders on. I was able to. What?
We all do.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But I was able to literally release any kind of connection and open up ways, and it was one of those times, probably one of the rare times in my life, where I was able to open myself up for the love of my life versus, like you say, we've all done it, right? Forget it, I'm not dating ever again. And in fact, I think that I said that to you the very first time you made a move, and I said, I just made a decision just to be alone for a while, and here he is, and he's both the cuddly and he's the leader, and yes, they do exist, and I just want to validate what Dr. Elby was saying and say the love of your life does exist, the perfect happy relationship does exist, the powerful, just enwrapped support does exist, and Elby's going to help you find that. So thank you very much, Dr. Elby, for again, for being part of the Academy, for doing your interview for today. And I want to say congratulations and thank you to you members out there who partook in this presentation, and we look forward to seeing you on many, 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 many live sessions throughout the Academy over time. Thanks again. Bye-bye for now.
Give yourself a rose. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Bye-bye.